The 1970s Hoover Constellation has, as you know, because we did it, been stripped down. In the interim, I have washed, polished and laid everything out that we should probably need to reassemble and make a vacuum cleaner once more. So strap yourselves in and we'll start to get this back together. Yes, hello, my vacuum cleaner chums. How are you today? Yes, we start off by putting the motor back together. I think that's going to be the most efficient use of our time. So, first things first is to drop the coil, making sure that you get it right down so it sits on its screw posts into place. Then, we'll take these, which could probably go on first, but equally it's the same amount of faff to put them on now as it is to try and drop the whole thing into place later on. Next, we shall take our retaining bolts, which cleaned up very nicely indeed, and drop those down into the holes. And then trying to hold the whole thing into place, we'll come underneath, do the nuts up nice and hand tight, like so. Oh, this one is still being a bit stiff, but you do them up nice and tight. With the coil in position, we can pop our bolt covers on to the top of the bolts, like so. Next, we want the armature and the bearing plate for the front. I'm going to stick a little squish of oil just in the top bearing, just to help it. There we go, just in a little bit, just enough to moisten it really. And then we can drop the armature into here, which spins badly for now. We need to lubricate it up, and then we need to remember which way round this all goes, because I think the holes are slightly handed. In fact, I think they might even be upside down. This is probably where I'm going to go wrong, folks. Ah, yes, that instantly makes more sense, just going by the fact that it fits. So with that on there, we should be able to hold it, or leave it even. We can grab our 4 motor housing screws and put this midsection back together. With everything now screwed together, we can add some of this bearing grease to the top bearing, and you want to put quite a lot on because it's got to soak back into the felt pad. And as soon as you do that and give it a few turns, it will instantly go smoother and should free spin. If it doesn't free spin, you've done something wrong, and this is an ideal point to take it out. There we go. There is our Hoover roundel from the before video, all nicely done as well. Right, then we can put the spacer ring in, then a washer, oh, he says, then a fan, and next up is going to be a washer, then this mid-frame assembly, for I do believe this centerpiece here does just drop through the hole. Oh yes. Then another washer, our top fan, the other washer, these 2 small washers which were on it when we took it apart. I don't fully think they're needed, but equally they've been on here long enough to take them off now. And then we can do the nut up, and then I'll give it a tighten up off camera. With the fan nut tightened down, it should be starting to spin quite freely. What we now need to do is to line up the mid-frame with the holes, then put the fan case cover itself on, line up its holes, and then we'll put the screws, which I had in my hand, where have I just put those screws, back into their holes. our motor should now spin really, really freely, which is an excellent sign and means that we can now put the carbon brushes back into place. Look, you can almost use them as a pencil on this paper surface that I have put down. Now, you've got to pull the white lever out and then hold it. There you go. Hold it whilst you drop the carbon brushes in and then let those fall on top. And then plug the brushes in to either side. Same with this side. Maybe a little screwdriver if your fingers are a bit too fat to do it easily. Oh, there we go. And then that clips on there, and that is our motor pretty much almost wired up. Onto the putting stuff together phase now, and we're actually going to start with the cord exit grommet, which once placed sort of over the hole can be pushed relatively easily through. Once you start getting one bit through, you can pull it from the other side. So look, push just this little corner in. Come on. Oh. Yay, there we go. And then it'll pull in, centre itself, and that is that. Then we can take our flex, which is the same piece of flex. I did not replace it because, yes, being from the 1970s, this is not going to be fluted because they weren't back then. It's going to be straight, just like, you know, oh, wow, look. That's a bummer. I've just pulled, what I'm trying to do, folks, is pull the cable through and fit all this first, through this. But I want to put it through the other way because I was fancy look and I soldered rings back onto the end of the terminal and don't want to ruin those. So let me get this cable through. We can fit the wiring bracket to the chassis. Then fit our wires to the terminal with their screws. The cable holder can now go in place as well. Next, it's time to fit the switch, and we need to lay these two pieces out here, then push the switch through the middle, and by crikey, this is the fiddliest part. And then eventually you should be able to lift the sides up and they'll squeeze together when you've done it right. Come on. It can be very fiddly. You can also do it first try if you, there we go, done. Like, so, oh no, that wasn't it, was it? Ha! This is when it becomes a pain. It's when you start forgetting little bits and bobs. This needs to go on first. Then this, hold with your third hand. Then this side. Then pull up. That's a bit more harder to clamp now. That's how I knew it was wrong. Because normally you do need just a little pair of pliers just to finish it off. Because now this protector is packing out. You're packing it out, or are you not in properly? No, you're in properly. It's very hard to. Got it upside down. There we go. Look, click. See, it should just go click, and there is our switch in place. Now we can drop. Which bit goes in first? That bit goes in first. The plastic base for the motor. Then on our motor we can fit the bottom rubber. And then all of that can drop into here, and now, well, the thing that I've got to do now is make a slightly custom wiring loom, because of course we're not putting the suppressor back into place. Now we have two wires here, and indeed one of them already has a spade terminal, so that's going to be quite simple. One of those needs to go to the switch, and then another one needs to go back to the motor, and then, Look at that, look, I can just wire the neutral from the motor straight to the neutral of there. So, I'm going to get that done quickly. Then all that remains is for us to... Oh, you know what, I've just realised we've forgotten a few bits, haven't we? Luckily, don't need to worry too much about fitting them, because look, you can just lift everything out of the way. It's sort of the spark of Vestergaard, so should probably be there. I've just looked over and seen it laying there. Whoops. But hey, very simple, just to retrace your steps a bit. Pop it in, put that there, and there we go. That will sit in place. Now, then we can put our top motor seal on. Then we can put our top casing on, which should be a snug fit because it should be pressing back against that big seal there now that we've cleaned it up a little bit. We haven't finished it off though. I've just glanced again, look. Don't forget to put your spark arrestor cover back on the top of the wires. Then we'll put the top on, and then we actually need to take a little side step, just slightly. At this point, being sure that we have not forgotten anything that needs to go inside, and we haven't, we can turn our attention to this. So always chop the end off a nice bit of flex when I rewire it, and we're going to turn that into this. A nice wired up plug. Question remains, is our nice wired up plug going to make our cleaner explode or turn on? Beautiful. Okay. It certainly floats about. It floats about, it runs, it does not electrocute me. That's not bad. Now we can carry on putting the rest of it back together. Now that everything works and is working, we can put a filter back into place. Now this is not the most fun job on a Hoover Constellation. I fully understand why a lot of these just never got changed, and probably what killed the machine off. They thought that it wasn't sucking up, when in reality it was just paper bags, single walled paper bags, and this filter, and the spring clip is probably a very simple way of doing this. I just never learned, and I just try and expand the clip enough to sit over. Oh, hello. Aha, like. Ooh. So, that'll do. Yeah, that's what we want. Nice and tight. It's on enough. Very good indeed. Right, on now to this, which is our top, which polished up very, very nicely indeed. There is something there. I cannot polish it off. It's sort of part of the paint, oddly. But it's certainly a lot better. The first thing that we're going to do is to put the bumper back on, and that involves pushing through the hinges. 1, 2, and then you can go around. And again at the back you've got to line the hole up with the clip for the top itself. There we go. It's a lot more difficult as you get around, but eventually the whole thing goes on. You can centre it up quite nicely, and the bumper is there. Now take off one of the circlips on our little metal bar, and we can sit. So it is a little bit easier to sit the machine on, almost as if you're ready to put it back together, and then open it up, and keeping these bits lined, push the retaining bar through. Oh blimey, and then here comes the fun of losing a little circlip as you try and put it into place. Ugh. Let's give this a go. Where's my little pliers? There we go, our hinge is now in place, our top now goes on. Right, next, well, we'll fit this, the bag rubber. Now, very rubber. We'll also never fit it fully on. Leave it, out a bit, because then when you close it, it will push and find its own, level with the bag. Right, last thing to do is our handle, which again is a case of lining up the holes and doing up the screws, really. There's one, gotcha. There's the other one, there it is. Are you going to hold enough for me to get the screw in? You are. Hey, and then we'll do up those screws. And that's the last screws, I think. The last thing that we need to do is take a brand new, genuine bag. I'm not HEPA modding this one. The person I'm doing this constellation for has many others. You've probably seen them all on my channel. And we've HEPA modded some of those and brought those into the 21st and a half century. So this, we do not need to. We are going to keep this one, get the right way around, completely original, right down to the bag that is fitted. And there we go. Put that on, do the clip up at the bottom, and our Hoover Constellation project is back together. It's very battered at the bottom end. It's probably why it doesn't float terribly well, but it should work now. We should have suction from there. Let's plug it in and, well, we've already tested it. Let's plug it in and check it works like a Hoover Constellation should. The whole acoustics of it should be a lot better now. Oh, there we go. It still floats. It doesn't glide quite as well, but it does do okay. No air leaks. And in theory, the bag should have expanded as much as it's going to. And yeah, that is our little blue 1970s, quite a late one this, Hoover Constellation is done and ready for its own, although I've got another one to do yet. So you'll probably see this again in a combined after video with, if you remember correctly, the orange one that I have. But I thought, hey, we haven't done a Hoover Constellation how-to video for a while. These get very expensive. I am always amazed at how much these go for. This one, I know, costs a fair bit of money, even in its condition. And bless them, they have a following. You do have to be careful. This wants to be as flat as possible. You want no rust. I've seen these nearly a complete strip down and repaint. If you strip down and repaint them, you can then fit, a pneumatic motor in them and pep them up a bit. Then you do have to fit a HEPA bag, otherwise it rips all the dust out from here. Or hey, you could have a nice car boot find, completely original, with all of its tools. 1960s, 70s, 80s, Hoover Constellation, that you just want to get working as good as it did when it came out of the box. And here we go. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll make sure this makes an appearance in another after video. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.